Hi there, this is Dr. Coates. This is the second in a series of 3 videos about the synthesis matrix assignment. The last video, I put a new source into sheet 1 here of the sample matrix that's just for the core readings. Today I'd like to show you how to go from sheet 1 to sheet 2 and then what the major difference is between that second and this first step. Okay, so the first thing to do, assuming that you're completely done with sheet 1, is you go ahead and select all. That's either Control A or just going up to, can you do this through Edit? No, okay. So, or you could just drag the entire sheet like that. But anyway, select all and then copy it, which I'm using Control or Command C to do, but you can definitely do. Yeah, as you can see, it says Control C for the keyboard command. And then when you get over to sheet 2, assuming it's blank, and mine is not, but you would go into the upper left-hand column and then do paste without format, which another way of saying this is paste special. Go into Edit, paste special, and then values only. That's Control-Shift-V. Okay. Once you do that, if you're doing it values only, then this green should stay here, as will all of the column widths. Otherwise, you might find that much of this reverts to default, which in this case is overflow rather than text wrap, and everything will just go off to the side and then get cut off by the next column. So this would not look like this happy box. It would instead look much smaller, and you'd have all of the sentences being cut off. So remember to do paste special. If it doesn't work the first time, you can also undo by going to Edit, Undo, or that's Control Z. Okay, so as you can see, there's not all that much difference in the legend, although I have made, because it's your personal preference whether or not you want to have your patterns be sub-questions or just topics or themes. I had kind of like on sheet 1, social media impact, and here it's become what's the best way to think about the impact of Web 2.0 on culture. It's the same question basically, it's just I wanted to show you what it would look like in question form. And I have a new sheet that I just made that I'll show you that brings it back to sentence level form, but still gives you like a more rounded out version of the pattern. Okay. You can see too that there's multiple colors here, and what I've done is where it made sense to me to leave some information from sheet 1, I just left it, but I also made it into another color. This is your personal preference. You can also delete it, and I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. It does, there's a lot more words if you leave something from sheet 1, and there is some wisdom to deleting it because it still exists on sheet 1, So maybe you don't need it at all, but at least for me, it made sense for me to leave it here, and then I could just write, like a response to what was still in the box, and that would be more of a shorthand. It would save me from typing. Also, it looks like I've got more. I don't know if that's a problem for you. I have a lot of boxes that are still filled in because I do feel like these questions that I made up for the core readings are addressed by most of them, and that has to do with why I chose them, of course. Let's see. I think the row I want to focus on here is what goes viral and why. When you are adjusting what you've got from sheet 1, the first thing that you're doing is taking any quotations and paraphrasing them so that they're in your own words. Okay, and that's certainly true here. If they are, local, mid-level summaries right here, you keep the paragraph numbers. And another way of making sure that you keep those paragraph numbers is to, leave some of the language from sheet 1. But here you can see, here's an example of where I didn't. Over here in box F3, I still have the, section 5.2, paragraph 4. So, yeah, you need to have those regardless, unless you're talking about the overall claim of the source. But as you're paraphrasing, you're also making it more attuned to the pattern that's on the far left, the what goes viral and why. Whereas stuff that you're just taking notes from the source, it's probably going to be mostly about like how you're responding to that individual source. Now you're talking about all your sources as a set, and so as you're paraphrasing it, also make it your commentary about how this thing fits into that individual row. Okay. Also, this is the time to start planning and making notes to yourself about how you would present the conversation you see happening among your sources within this row. So, for example, for a question like what goes viral and why, of the sources that we read, even if you didn't read all of them, of the sources that I assigned or made available, Gladwell is the one that is most centrally about why things go viral. And so my note here is Gladwell really is the best source to use for discussing why something goes viral. It's kind of as simple as that. Now, it would be up to you if you were using this matrix in order to write a paper. to lead up to Gladwell or to start off with Gladwell. That's personal preference, whether you want to put your best foot forward or save the best for last. And those are, either one sounds fine as long as you're consistent with it. But that doesn't mean that these other ones don't belong in the conversation. They would just get either a more muted reference or kind of a shout out rather than sustained attention. And the other thing that you want to do in sheet 2 of the matrix is to note where your sources disagree. So here's one right here. Lakoff would strenuously disagree with Gladwell's idea of inborn characteristics. Gladwell's idea about connectors is that they're just born that way. Some people like to have a big Rolodex but no close friendships. And Lakoff is saying, no, it's because of the way our brains are wired. And then Sommerfeld would also strenuously disagree with that because he's a professor of public relations and wants to keep his job. So he has to believe that it's possible to teach somebody to be better at connecting with people. Okay, so that's in a nutshell, this is the sort of thing that sheet 2 is privileging, noting where your sources come together, where they disagree, and also plotting out how this is going to look once you go from this spreadsheet to the paper that this is designed to be a drafting tool for. I think the last thing is, if you haven't already, adjust your patterns once you're done with each row. And now you want to make it so that it's the best possible label for the conversation that you see going on within the row. So instead of something like SM impact, you're not going to see something like that in the table of contents for an article. But you might see something like this, or if you're uncomfortable with questions, let me take you to sheet 5, which is brand new. It looks a lot like what we had before. This is just social media's impact on in real life culture. I might spell out in real life, but nevertheless, that sounds a lot more like a table of content thing. Factors that can lead to content going viral instead of what goes viral and why. This is just for people that don't like question marks. Okay, and I guess I suppose I count myself in that group, but it doesn't matter all that much. The other thing I've done in this example is I've deleted all the red just to show you what it looks like. It's a little bit cleaner. None of the wording is different. I've replaced the long quotations with things in bracket. So instead of the passage from my notes about how Sommerfeld defines an image event, I just put image event in brackets. Again, because that still exists on sheet 1. It's a little cleaner. It's certainly shorter. Still gets the job done and allows you to see what you need to see. But either one is fine with me. And you certainly don't need to color code if you don't want to. All right, the next video is going to be about how to go from a successfully completed sheet 2 to the reflective walkthrough. So stay tuned for that.